Be me, Jessica, 32 years old. Work as a compliance officer. Boring as hell, but pays the bills. My real passion is advocating for women's rights. Just a regular person who gives a shit about equality. Attend rallies whenever I can, usually twice a month. Last Saturday was at the Reproductive Rights March downtown. Held my sign, chanted with everyone else, felt that rush of solidarity, posted pics on my personal Facebook and Instagram after. Got like 200 likes, which is pretty good for me. I'm not trying to build a following or anything. I just want my friends and family to see what matters to me. Monday morning, back at my desk, staring at a 40-page compliance document about liability clauses. Mind wandering as usual, thinking about how I haven't been on a date in 8 months, not for lack of trying. Downloaded every app, swiped through hundreds of profiles. The few matches I get never lead anywhere. Conversations feel like job interviews. Where do you work? What do you do? What are your hobbies? No spark, no excitement, no butterflies. Just sterile exchanges that fizzle out after 3 days. Remember when dating used to feel different? Not that I'm old enough to remember the good old days, or whatever, but even in my 20s there was something more organic about it. Guys would actually approach you at coffee shops, bookstores, bars. There was tension, anticipation, playfulness. Now everyone just stares at their phones. Went to a bar Friday night with my co-worker Melissa. Decent crowd, music not too loud, good atmosphere. Sat there for 2 hours. Not a single guy even made eye contact. Everyone in their own bubbles. Melissa kept swiping on Bumble while we were literally surrounded by single men. Pointed this out to her. She just shrugged and said, "That's how it is now. Feels so transactional. Like we're all just shopping for humans in a catalog. Rate their pictures, judge their bio, swipe left or right. Where's the romance in that? Where's the spontaneity?" Started thinking about this more and more over the week. Got really frustrated. Wednesday night, couldn't sleep. Scrolling through Instagram at 1 a.m., seeing all these engagement announcements from people I went to high school with. Their stories about how they met are always the same. We matched on Hinge, talked for 2 weeks, met for coffee. So fucking boring. Their grandparents probably have better meet-cute stories. Felt this surge of anger. Opened a text post on my Instagram. Started typing. Just venting, really. Talking about how modern dating has completely lost its soul. How men have entirely stopped approaching women in person. How everything feels cold and transactional now. How I miss the days when guys would actually shoot their shot in real life, take a risk, walk up to someone, start a conversation, kept typing, getting more worked up. Wrote about how previous generations had it right. Old-fashioned romantic flirting actually meant something. It was bold, it was vulnerable, it was real. Not hiding behind a screen and a carefully curated profile, ended the post with a plea. Literally begging guys to start approaching women again, to bring back in-person flirting, to make dating feel human again. Read it over once, didn't edit, just posted. Figured maybe a few friends would see it and relate. Went to sleep. Woke up Thursday morning to 47 notifications. What the fuck? Post had been shared 15 times. 180 likes. 30 comments. People I hadn't talked to in years were weighing in. Some women agreeing enthusiastically. Saying they felt the same way. Thanking me for putting words to their frustration. Felt validated. Finally someone was talking about this. Went to work feeling energized. Checked my phone during lunch. Post was still gaining traction. Someone had screenshot it and shared it on Twitter. Now it was really spreading. Over 1,000 likes on the screenshot. Hundreds of retweets. Comment section was going crazy. Women sharing their own stories about modern dating, how they missed being approached, how apps have ruined everything. I felt like I'd struck a nerve. This was clearly something people needed to discuss. By Friday morning, the post had gone fully viral. The Twitter screenshot had 45k likes. Someone made a TikTok reading my post with sad music that got 200k views. My original Instagram post had over 2,000 likes now. People were sharing it to Facebook groups. Saw it in 3 different subreddits. Felt simultaneously thrilled and nervous. Thrilled because clearly this resonated with so many women. Nervous because I'm not used to this kind of attention. I'm literally just a compliance officer. I'm not a public figure or influencer. I just post about stuff I care about on my personal accounts. But this felt important. Felt like I was giving voice to something real. Spent Friday night reading through comments. Most were supportive. Women sharing their frustrations. Talking about how dating apps have made everything feel like a chore. But then started seeing some other comments. Mostly from men. They seemed confused. Some were angry. One guy commented, "Didn't you literally call me a creep for talking to you at Whole Foods?" Wait, what? Didn't remember that at all. Scrolled through my post history. Oh fuck. March 2022. Long post about how I was shopping for groceries. Guy approached me near the produce section. Tried to start a conversation about avocados or some shit. I wrote this whole thing about how women can't even buy vegetables in peace. How we're constantly subjected to unwanted attention. How men need to learn that public spaces aren't their dating playground. Called it harassment. Got a lot of support on that post too. Oh no. Kept scrolling. Found more. August 2022. Post about a guy who struck up a conversation with me at a bookstore. I'd written about how exhausting it is that men think women reading in public want to be interrupted. How we can't exist in spaces without being approached. Used the word harassment there too. November 2022. Whole thing about a guy who tried to buy me a drink at a bar. Wrote about how this behavior is outdated and presumptuous. How it puts women in uncomfortable positions. How men need to understand that we don't owe them conversation just because they purchased alcohol. Heart started racing. This wasn't good. The comments were starting to reflect this discovery. People were finding these old posts, screenshot them, putting them side by side with my current post. The contrast was fucking damning. 1 minute, I'm calling in-person approaches harassment. The next, I'm begging for old-fashioned romantic flirting. Tried to think of how to explain this. There's nuance here that people aren't getting. It's about context and intent and reading social cues. There's a difference between genuine romantic interest and predatory behavior. Started drafting a follow-up post to clarify. Deleted it. Tried again. Deleted it again. Everything I wrote sounded defensive. Because it was defensive, the truth was sitting there and I couldn't avoid it. I had been inconsistent. No, worse than inconsistent. I'd been contradictory. Hypocritical even. Saturday morning, woke up to my post being discussed on some men's forum. They'd compiled like 8 of my old posts about unwanted male attention. Put them in a grid next to my viral post. The thread had thousands of comments. They were eviscerating me, calling me entitled, saying this proved that women don't know what they want, that we complain no matter what men do. Approach us, we call it harassment. Don't approach us, we complain about that too. Felt sick reading it. Wanted to defend myself. Wanted to explain that it's not that simple. That women are individuals, and what works for one might not work for another. That consent and mutual interest matter. That there's a difference between a respectful approach and aggressive pestering. But even as I thought these defenses, I could hear how they sounded. How was a guy supposed to know if his approach would be welcomed or called harassment? How was he supposed to determine if this was the right context? If I was the right woman who wanted to be approached versus one who would blast him on social media, the answer was he couldn't know. He'd have to take a risk. Which was exactly what I was now begging men to do. But I'd also previously punished men for taking that exact risk. My coworker, Melissa, texted me. Said she saw my post everywhere. Asked if I was okay. Told her I was fine. Wasn't fine. Spent the weekend watching this play out online. More and more people were weighing in. Some women were still supporting me, saying that men were being deliberately obtuse. That obviously there's a difference between respectful flirting and harassment. But then men would ask what that difference was, and the answers were always vague. Read the room, respect boundaries, pay attention to body language. All true, but all subjective. One woman's charming approach is another woman's uncomfortable harassment, and I had literally demonstrated this myself. Situations I'd called harassment in 2022 were the exact same situations I was now begging for in 2024. Guy starting conversation in public space? Check. Guy showing romantic interest to stranger? Check. Guy taking social risk to pursue connection? Check. Only difference was my mood, my receptiveness, my current dating frustration. Sunday night, someone made a response video that really blew up. Some guy talking directly to camera. He was calm, not angry or mocking, just matter of fact. He pulled up my posts, side by side. Read them out loud. Then addressed the camera. Said something like, "Men are not mind readers. We respond to incentives and disincentives. For years, we've been told that approaching women in public is harassment, that we need to leave women alone in coffee shops, bookstores, gyms, grocery stores. That cold. Approaches are unwanted and creepy. That we're making women uncomfortable. So we stopped. We listened. We took you at your word. We stuck to apps where there's mutual opt-in. And now you're mad about that too. You want us to read some invisible signal that distinguishes wanted from unwanted attention. But that signal changes based on whether you find us attractive, whether you're in the mood, whether you're currently frustrated with dating apps, you want traditional romance, but modern boundaries. You want to be pursued, but only in the exact way you want, at the exact time you want. And if we guess wrong, we're harassers who get publicly shamed. So no thanks. We're good with the apps. At least there, we know interest is mutual before we say a word. Watched this video 3 times. Had 500k views. Comments were overwhelmingly agreeing with him. Even some women were nodding along. Felt this crushing weight in my chest. Wanted to argue with him. Wanted to point out all the holes in his logic, but couldn't find them. He wasn't being unfair. He was responding to exactly what women like me had been saying for years. Leave us alone in public spaces. Stop bothering us when we're just trying to live our lives. We're not here for your entertainment. We don't owe you conversation. Your attention is not a compliment. It's a burden. I'd said all of this. I'd believed all of this. I still kind of believed it. But I also desperately wanted someone to approach me at a coffee shop. Wanted to lock eyes with a stranger across a bookstore. Wanted someone to take the risk of talking to me. Wanted the butterflies, and uncertainty, and organic connection. The contradiction was making my brain hurt. I tried to logic my way out of it. Maybe the issue was that the wrong men were approaching. Unattractive men. Men I wasn't interested in. But that felt gross to admit. So, the harassment versus flirting distinction was just based on whether I found the guy hot. That made me the shallow one. That made me the problem. Maybe it was about how they approached. Aggressive versus respectful. But I'd called respectful approaches harassment too. The guy at Whole Foods hadn't been aggressive. He'd just tried to start a conversation. I'd still blasted him online. Maybe it was about reading body language and social cues. But how is a stranger supposed to read my cues? I probably look the same, buying avocados, whether I want to be approached or not. Resting face doesn't broadcast romantic availability. Spent Monday morning at work, completely distracted. Kept refreshing my phone. The discourse had moved on, but was still simmering. My name was being mentioned in think pieces now. Some were sympathetic, saying this showed how impossible modern dating is for everyone. How women are caught between wanting safety and wanting romance. But most were critical, saying I represented everything wrong with modern feminism. That I wanted all the benefits of traditional gender roles and modern equality. I wanted men to pursue but only when convenient. Wanted to be approached but retain veto power that came with public shaming. Wanted the excitement of the chase but none of the discomfort of unwanted attention. My friend Sarah called me Tuesday. She'd seen everything. Asked what I was going to do. Told her I didn't know. She suggested I post an apology or clarification. Thought about it. What would I even say? Sorry for being inconsistent. Sorry for contributing to a culture where men are damned if they do, damned if they don't. Sorry for wanting incompatible things. Sorry for being human and complex, and occasionally hypocritical. None of it felt right. Decided to just let it blow over. Deleted the viral post. Too late, obviously, since it had been screenshot everywhere. But at least it wasn't on my page anymore. Made my accounts private. Stopped checking mentions. Tried to move on. Wednesday evening was supposed to go to a women's rights rally downtown. Reproductive healthcare focus. Normally, wouldn't miss it, but felt weird about going. Felt like a fraud. Still went though, because I do actually care about these issues. My hypocrisy about dating doesn't negate my beliefs about women's rights. Or does it? Stood in the crowd holding my sign. Usually feel energized at these things. This time just felt confused. How many other positions was I holding that contradicted each other? How many times had I demanded something while simultaneously criticizing it? Got home that night and opened a beer. Sat on my couch thinking. Realized what bothered me most wasn't the criticism. It was that the guy in the video was right. Men had listened to what women were saying. That we didn't want to be approached in public. That cold approaches were generally unwelcome. That apps provided a better system with mutual consent. They'd adapted their behavior. And now, I was mad about it. Not because they'd done something wrong, but because the consequences of getting what I asked for weren't what I wanted. Turns out mutual opt-in, consent-based dating is sterile and boring. Turns out algorithmic matching removes spontaneity and chemistry. Turns out transactional swiping doesn't create butterflies. Who knew? Apparently everyone except me. Thursday morning at work, ran into this guy Derek from accounting. We'd talked a few times, always pleasant. He was holding the elevator for me. Got in, said thanks. He smiled, looked like he wanted to say something, then didn't. Just looked at his phone. Elevator ride was silent. Realized he probably would have chatted me up 6 months ago. Maybe even asked me to lunch. But he'd probably seen my posts. Or at least absorbed the general cultural message they represented. Why risk it? Safer to just look at his phone. Got to my floor feeling more frustrated than ever. This is what I wanted, right? To be left alone. To not have my elevator ride interrupted by unwanted conversation. To exist in public without men bothering me. Mission accomplished. Jessica, you won. Except it didn't feel like winning. Friday night, Melissa dragged me out to a bar. Said I needed to stop moping. Sat there drinking overpriced cocktails. Decent crowd again. Mostly people our age. Watched the whole scene like an anthropologist. Everyone in gender-segregated groups. Guys with guys, girls with girls. Nobody crossing the divide. Everyone. On their phones. Swiping through the same apps. Literally surrounded by potential partners. But everyone staying in their lanes. Safe, consensual, mutually opted in lanes. Melissa pointed out a guy across the bar. Said he was cute. Told her to go talk to him. She looked at me like I'd suggested she juggle chainsaws. We don't do that anymore, Jessica. You know that. Told her. Apparently, I didn't know that. She gave me a weird look. Realized I was being bitter. Tried to shake it off. Melissa went back to swiping. I just sat there. Guy, Melissa had pointed out, glanced our direction a few times. Could tell he was interested, but he stayed put. Probably ran the same risk calculation in his head. Approach her, could go well. Or could get blasted on social media. Or told he's harassing her. Or make her uncomfortable. Or become a story she tells about creepy men who won't leave women alone. Better to just keep drinking with his friends. Safer bet. Watched him match with someone on his phone. Start chatting with a pixel representation of a person, instead of the actual person 10 feet away who might be interested. This is fine. Everything is fine. This is exactly the system we built. Went home alone. Melissa went home alone. Cute guy went home alone. Everyone swiping and matching and having boring conversations that lead nowhere. Saturday afternoon did laundry and groceries. Stood in the produce section at Whole Foods. Thought about that guy from 2022, the one who tried to talk to me about avocados. Wondered what he was doing now. Probably married to someone he met on Hinge, telling their boring ass story at dinner parties. We matched, we talked, we met for coffee. Their kids will never have a romantic story about how mum and dad met. Folding laundry later, and my phone buzzed. Notification from Hinge, another match. Looked at his profile. Aaron, 34, works in marketing. His bio said he likes hiking and trying new restaurants. Literally the same as every other bio. Swiped through his pictures. Looked fine, decent enough. He'd already sent the first message. Hey Jessica, saw you also like hiking? What's your favorite trail? Stared at it for a full minute. This was it. This was modern dating. This was what I'd advocated for. Safe, consensual, mutual interest established before any interaction. No risk of harassment because we both swiped right. No unwanted attention because the app matched us. Everything above board and respectful and progressive. It felt like doing taxes. Typed back. Hey Aaron, I usually do the trails at Summit Park. He sent it. He responded 5 minutes later. Cool, I've done those. Pretty nice views. Riveting. Absolutely riveting. This conversation would definitely lead to a meaningful connection. Put my phone down. Went back to folding laundry. Thought about my grandmother. She met my grandfather at a bus stop in 1965. He'd asked her what she was reading. She thought he was forward but charming. They talked the whole bus ride. He asked for her number. She gave it to him. They were married 50 years before he died. She told that story at every family gathering. Her eyes would light up. The spontaneity, the risk he took, the immediate connection. Tried to imagine telling my future kids. We matched on Hinge. He asked about my favorite hiking trail. We talked for 2 weeks. Then met for coffee at a place neither of us had strong opinions about. The romance of it all. Sunday morning woke up to another message from Aaron, asking if I wanted to meet up for coffee. Sure. When were you thinking? How about Thursday afternoon? Works for me. Marked it in my calendar. Felt nothing. No butterflies. No anticipation. No excitement. Just a scheduled meeting with a stranger. Like a dentist appointment, but with small talk. Spent the day cleaning my apartment. Thought about the whole trajectory of events. My viral post. The backlash. The old posts people dug up. The contradictions. The guy's response video. His calm, systematic dismantling of my position. The worst part was, I couldn't even argue with him. I couldn't find the flaw in his logic. Men had responded rationally to the incentives women created. We said approaching us was harassment. They stopped approaching. We said we wanted consent and mutual interest first. They moved to apps that provided that. We said we wanted to be left alone in public spaces. They left us alone. And now I was unhappy with the results. But that was my problem, not theirs. They'd done exactly what was asked. They couldn't fault someone for listening. Couldn't blame men for adapting to what women said they wanted. Especially when the alternative was being publicly shamed as a harasser. The rational choice was obvious. Let the apps do the work. Eliminate risk. Wait for mutual interest to be established. Never make anyone uncomfortable. Never be the guy in someone's viral post about creepy men. Just swipe and match and have boring conversations. Safe and sterile and soul-crushing. But safe. Thursday came around. Met Aaron at the coffee shop. He looked like his pictures, which was good, I guess. Shook hands. Ordered our drinks. Sat down. Talked about hiking. Talked about our jobs. Talked about shows we were watching. He was nice. Perfectly pleasant. Conversation was fine. No chemistry, though. No spark. Just two people fulfilling the script. Ask questions, share information, laugh politely. An hour passed. We both had to get back to work. He said we should do this again. I said, sure. We didn't exchange numbers, because we already had each other on the app. Hugged briefly. Went our separate ways. Walked back to my office thinking about nothing. Feeling nothing. Later that night, he messaged me on Hinge. Had a nice time. Would love to see you again. I stared at the message. Should I say yes? He was perfectly acceptable. Nothing wrong with him, but nothing particularly right either. Just adequate. Just safe. Decided to respond the next day. Needed time to think. Friday evening, sat on my couch with wine. Melissa called, asking how the date went. Told her it was fine. She said fine is good. Fine is a start. You can build on fine. Hung up, feeling depressed. This is dating now. Fine. Adequate. Building on acceptable. Remembered being 23. Guy approached me at a concert. We danced. We talked. We had instant chemistry. Made out by the stage. Dated for 6 months. We didn't work out, but it was exciting while it lasted. That would never happen now. Now, we'd both be at the concert on our phones, swiping through apps. Surrounded by people, but completely isolated. Matching with strangers. We'd meet for coffee 3 weeks later. Having fine conversations. Building on adequate. Opened my Instagram. Still private, but I could see my old posts. Scrolled back to my viral post about wanting men to approach again. Read it with fresh eyes. Saw how desperate it sounded. How entitled. Bring back old-fashioned romance. Men need to start approaching again. Make dating exciting again. All demands. No acknowledgement that I'd contributed to the very culture I was complaining about. No recognition that men were responding rationally to what women asked for. A just complaint that the consequences weren't what I wanted. Classic. Scrolled further back. Found the posts about unwanted attention, about harassment, about men needing to leave women alone. Read those with fresh eyes too. Saw how absolute they were, how there was no room for nuance. Any approach was harassment. Any attention was unwanted. Any man trying to start a conversation was a creep. No wonder they stopped. Sat there with my wine, looking at the contradiction laid bare. 2 versions of myself. Both absolutely certain. Both completely incompatible. Both insufferable in their own way. One demanding to be left alone. The other demanding to be pursued. One calling approaches harassment. The other begging for approaches. Neither acknowledging the impossible position this created. Neither taking responsibility for the consequences. Just complaints and demands. Just entitlement. The guy from the response video was right. We didn't know what we wanted. Or we did but wanted incompatible things. Wanted romance without risk. Wanted pursuit without rejection. Wanted old-fashioned courtship with modern consent culture. Wanted men to approach, but only the right men at the right time in the right way. And if they guessed wrong, they were harassers. No wonder they opted out. No wonder they stuck to apps. No wonder Aaron and I had a fine date. Because fine is all you get when nobody's willing to take risks. Poured another glass of wine. Thought about responding to Aaron. Telling him, yes. Let's go out again. Build on fine. Settle for adequate. This is what modern dating is. Might as well accept it. Except I couldn't quite bring myself to type it. Because settling for fine felt like admitting defeat. Admitting that the guy in the video was right. Admitting that I'd advocated myself into a corner. Demanded my way into sterile transactional dating. And now had to live with it. Put my phone down. Sat there in the quiet of my apartment. Alone. Single. 32 years old. Surrounded by thousands of potential matches on apps. None of them feeling real. All of them just fine. Adequate. Safe. Thought about deleting my apps. Going back to meeting people organically. But where? Men weren't approaching anymore. I'd helped make sure of that. Could approach them myself, I guess. But that felt wrong somehow. Not because women shouldn't approach men, but because I wanted to be pursued. Wanted the traditional dynamic, while also wanting modern equality. Wanted everything. Wanted incompatible things. and ended up with nothing. Finished my wine. Looked at my phone one more time. Aaron's message, still sitting there. Had a nice time. Would love to see you again. Nice, fine, adequate. This is what I'd built. This is what I'd asked for. Congratulations, Jessica. You won.